We're always looking for those real breakthroughs, aren't we? Things that might actually change how we do things.
Yeah, totally.
And today, we're diving into something I think fits that bill, the iCares Smart Bandage. This comes from Professor Wagau's team over at Caltech.
Ah, yes. The lab on skin idea.
Exactly, a lab on skin. It sounds like science fiction, but it has the potential, really, to just completely change how we handle chronic wounds.
It really does. For years, wound care, especially for chronic stuff, it's been, well, slow. Lots of just looking at it, maybe infrequent tests.
Right, subjective.
Very subjective. iCares aims for continuous objective data. It's a big shift.
And for you listening, if you want to get the gist of major innovations without wading through tons of research papers, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm. We're going to break down how this thing works, how it tracks the wound, delivers treatment, even tries to predict healing, all based on the research that's come out.
And we should be clear, this isn't just for, like, a paper cut. It's aimed at those really tough ones, chronic wounds, slow-healing burns, the kind that really affect people's lives.
Ones that hang around. Diabetes-related wounds, circulation issues.
Okay, so let's get into it. What's the real innovation here? What makes iCares different?
Well, the core idea is that it does two things. It doesn't just sit there. It actively tracks what's happening in the wound and helps it heal.
Actively helps. How?
So back in 2023, they showed in animal models that it could collect data in real time, yes, but also speed up healing. It could deliver tiny amounts of medication right where needed, or even use, like, gentle electrical stimulation.
Yeah, okay. Targeted treatment right from the bandage itself.
Exactly. Proactive, not just reactive.
That's a big step. But animal models are one thing. Taking it to people is the real test, isn't it?
Always. And they have. They've tested an improved version, the iCares Bandage, on actual human patients. 20 people initially with chronic wounds, the kind you mentioned, from diabetes or poor circulation. And what's really interesting is how it worked. It was continuously sampling the fluid, the stuff the body makes when it's inflamed or fighting infection.
Continuously sampling fluid, okay.
And they didn't stop there. They also looked at patients before and after surgery, trying to see how it might work in broader situations.
Fascinating. So it's constantly pulling this fluid. How does it actually know what's in the fluid? This whole lab on skin idea, what does it physically look like? Is it bulky?
Surprisingly, no. It's designed to be pretty user-friendly. It's basically a strip of flexible polymer. Think thin, bendy plastic that's safe for skin.
Biocompatible, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. Biocompatible. And here's a key thing. It can be 3D printed pretty cheaply. That's important if you want it used widely.
Makes sense. So what's embedded in this strip?
Right. So you've got a few key parts working together. There's a disposable sensor array. Tiny, tiny sensors, nano-engineered, designed to detect specific molecules in the wound fluid.
Disposable, so it's hygienic. One-time use for the sensor part.
Exactly. Clean slate each time. Then there's a reusable bit, a small printed circuit board. That's the brain, kind of. It processes the signals from the sensors and sends the data wirelessly.
Wirelessly. To what? A phone?
Yeah. Potentially to a smartphone app or maybe a doctor's tablet, some kind of user interface.
Okay, disposable sensor, reusable electronics. That's smart design. Practical, cost-effective. You mentioned microfluidics before. What's that about?
Ah, yeah, the microfluidics. That's sort of the plumbing, but on a microscopic scale.
Yeah.
Tiny channels and modules designed to handle minuscule amounts of liquid really precisely.
Miniature plumbing, okay.
There are three main parts to this microfluidic system in the iCares. First, a special membrane that gently pulls fluid out from the wound.
Draws it in.
Yep. Second, there's a component they call bio-inspired, meaning it mimics something in nature that moves that fluid over to the sensors.
Efficient transport.
Right. And third, there's another module, using tiny pillars, that actually gets rid of the fluid after it's been sampled.
Gets rid of it. Why?
That's actually critical. You don't want old fluid mixing with new fluid and messing up the readings. Professor Gao, the lead researcher, emphasized this. His system makes sure the sensors are always analyzing the latest fluid coming from the wound. It removes the old stuff, clears away moisture, so you get a fresh, accurate picture of what's happening right now.
That makes perfect sense. You need the freshest sample for the most accurate information. Okay, so it's getting these fresh samples. What is it actually looking for? What are the signals, the biomarkers?
It's looking for key indicators of trouble, basically. Specifically, inflammation and infection.
How does it spot those?
It measures specific molecules. For inflammation, it looks for nitric oxide. That's a pretty standard marker.
Okay.
And for infection, it's tracking hydrogen peroxide, another key chemical signal.
So it's picking up these chemical flags, essentially. And you mentioned earlier detection. How early are we talking?
This is one of the really exciting findings published in Science Translational Medicine. The data suggests the bandage could detect rising levels of these biomarkers, signaling a potential problem 1 to 3 days before a patient might actually start feeling symptoms.
1 to 3 days before you even notice redness or pain getting worse.
Potentially, yes. Think about what that means.
That's huge. That's a massive head start for treatment. You could potentially stop an infection before it really takes hold.
Exactly. It could allow doctors to intervene much sooner, maybe change the treatment plan, and hopefully avoid serious complications. It could genuinely change outcomes.
That lead time is a real game changer. Okay, so the bandage collects the data, identifies these biomarkers, but raw data isn't always easy to interpret, right? Especially a continuous stream of it.
Correct. Just getting numbers isn't enough. You need to make sense of them.
So how does iCares bridge that gap? How does it turn data into, well, useful information?
This is where AI comes in, machine learning specifically.
Oh.
The team developed an algorithm that takes all that biomarker data pouring in from the sensor and analyzes it. And it's shown it can do 2 pretty amazing things. First, it can classify the wound type pretty accurately.
Categorize it.
And second, maybe even more impressively, it can predict how long that wound is likely to take to heal.
Predict healing time. How accurate?
They reported accuracy comparable to an experienced clinician looking at all the data.
Wow. So the bandage isn't just monitoring, it's offering intelligence. It's like having a specialist checking the wound constantly.
In a way, yes. It's providing insights, not just raw numbers. It could flag wounds that aren't progressing as expected or predict which ones might need more intensive care.
Could this mean fewer trips to the clinic for patients? Or is it more about giving doctors better information when the patient does come in?
Probably a bit of both, eventually. You might not need checkups quite as often if the bandage shows everything's on track. But when you do go in, or even remotely, the doctor has this incredibly detailed picture of the wound's progress over time, informed by the AI's analysis. It allows for much more personalized care.
Tailored treatment plans based on real-time data and predictions, that sounds like the future.
It's certainly pointing in that direction.
Now, getting something this complex off the ground, it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
Funding, support?
Oh, absolutely. This kind of research needs significant backing. And I've had it from some major players.
Like who?
We're talking grants and support from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, the National Science Foundation, NSF.
The big government agencies?
Right. Also the American Cancer Society, Army Research Offices, the Heritage Medical Research Institute, and even internal support from Caltech's own Kavli Nanoscience Institute. It's a broad base of support.
That's encouraging. Shows a lot of belief in the potential here. You know, bringing it back to you listening, if you're trying to quickly understand where tech is making a real difference, this iCares bandage is such a great example.
Totally agree.
It takes all this complicated biology of wound healing and uses technology to make it, well, understandable and manageable. It gives you insight without needing a medical degree.
Yeah, it kind of cuts through the complexity. It delivers that continuous data stream, those AI insights, in a way that's potentially much easier to grasp and act on.
Okay, so let's try and crystallize this. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things we should take away about iCares?
I think the biggest thing is that it's a true lab on skin. It's not just passive. It actively monitors key biomarkers in real time.
Nitric oxide, hydrogen peroxide.
Right. It can help deliver targeted treatments, whether that's medication or electrical stimulation. And critically, it uses AI to classify wounds and predict healing times with pretty impressive accuracy.
And the potential impact.
Yeah.
It feels enormous, especially for people dealing with chronic wounds day in, day out.
Absolutely. Better management, earlier detection of problems, potentially faster healing, better quality of life.
Yeah.
It touches on all of that.
It really promises a more personalized, proactive approach to healthcare.
Definitely. It's a fantastic example of where a wearable tech could take us, giving us continuous feedback about our own bodies.
Which actually leads to a final thought. If we can make a lab on skin this effective for wounds, what else could we monitor?
Good question.
Could we see similar tech tracking other health markers continuously, maybe detecting the earliest signs of other diseases long before symptoms appear? Where does this lab on skin concept go next?
It's definitely something to think about. The possibilities are kind of mind-blowing, really.